All right. This is going to be the final part to the American Rescue Plan. Actually, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. A lot of stuff I don't understand, but not a whole lot. Let's just start with what we got. 9611. That's section 9611. 9611. Right? Amends the Internal Revenue Code. Tax credits for children. 3,000 instead of 1,000. Monthly payments to taxpayers. Yeah. Hold on. I'm sorry, I forgot to write down the section I found this in. Oh my gosh, it does say that somewhere though. Oh right, it creates this new section, right? In general, right, the Secretary shall establish a program for making monthly payments to taxpayers, each of which is equal to 1/12 of the annual advance amount determined with respect to such taxpayer for the calendar year. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea. Right? Annual advance amount means, with respect to any taxpayer for any calendar year, the amount which is estimated by the Secretary as being equal to the amount which would be treated as allowed under Subpart C of Part 4, Chapter 8 of Chapter 1 by reason of Section 24I1 for the taxpayer's taxable year beginning in such calendar year if. I still have no idea what it means. No idea what it means. It's literally like the term annual advance amount means the amount which is estimated by the Secretary as being equal to the amount which would be treated as allowed under, like, what the fuck? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, I really have no idea what that means. Zero clue. Zero clue what that means. Anyway, in this whole amendment that they provide, they do a little appropriations. And the appropriations, what shit is this at? Okay, here we go. 397,200,000 and 16,200,000. So it can't be that much. It can't be that big of a deal necessarily, like, because it's not like even in the billions, right? It's a small change, right? But these are necessary expenses for the Internal Revenue Service and necessary expenses for the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. I didn't even know there was a Bureau of the Fiscal Service. It reminds me of that movie, 12 Chairs, about the, there's like 12 chairs that belong to like the old royal family and of this before it became the Soviet Union. And some jewels were hidden in one of the chairs. And only like 3 guys knew about it. And so they kind of run around trying to find these chairs in order to tear them apart and find the jewels. And in the movie, there's just like a building. It's like Bureau of the Bureaus. And they go in and there's like a bureau for everything. There's a bureau for cheese, like the Bureau of Cheese, the Bureau of Chairs, the Bureau of Furniture. Besides chairs, I guess. Bureau of Tables. Bureau of Candlesticks. Like, they literally just have a bureau for everything. Anyway. 9612. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Pay to possessions of the U.S. And by possessions, it means like territories. Pay to of the U.S. equal to the loss of that possession. Mirror code tax system. Mirror code tax system is just kind of like where they kind of just use our tax laws, right? Income tax system of such, possession is determined by reference to the income tax laws of the United States. So the mirror tax laws, just their tax laws mirror our tax laws. It's just kind of like, okay. Section 9621. Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended. Tax credit regarding children. Just amends it. No, I don't. I mean, I look through it. Like, I'd have to write down everything, right? I'm like, screw that. Screw that. It's 9622. Internal Revenue Code is amended. See how short that is? It's amended by striking subparagraph F of section 32C1. So I mean, like, I'd have to go in and see this Internal Revenue Code of 1986, and like, oh my gosh, no. I really just want to get this over with, to be perfectly honest. So this is going to be very, very summarized. Very, 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 very summarized. Section 9623. Internal Revenue Code is amended. This is the same law of 1986. There's striking stuff, adding stuff. 9624. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 9625. Internal Revenue Code is amended by adding this new section. Make payments to Puerto Rico, payments to Virgin Islands, Guam, and Northern Mariana Islands. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's, from what I could tell, if so someone declares like a certain amount of income tax, right? So everybody, like, within the possession of the territory, or whatever the hell you want to call it, puts forward their income tax, and they like claiming these tax credits, right? And so therefore you can't tax them on this because of this tax credit. Then our federal government is eventually going to pay those tax credits. That's what I picked up from it. It's that the U.S. federal government's going to be like, oh, those are the tax credits. Okay, we'll pay you that amount. And it's kind of like, what? I don't think that's necessary at all. Whatever. 9626. Right, this one's weird. Allows taxpayers to apply Section 32 of the Internal Revenue Code tax credit if income in 2021 is less than income of 2019. I mean, I had to stare at this for a long time in order to pick that part up. I'm not gonna lie. 9631. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Provides special rules for 2021, where it's just kind of raising credit amounts, tax credits. I don't understand this stuff. This is in the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. It's not, written in a way for people to easily understand it. It's written in a way that only the experts of the experts understand it, and only the people who can afford said experts can actually use it. But once again, you can kind of just see for yourself that there's just substituting 8,000 for 3,000 in some area. They're just kind of raising amounts here. I really have no idea necessarily what those apply to. I'm guessing it's more like income, and so it's like tax credits, which I think the federal government's going to be paying to states anyway, it seems, because that's what the kind of other sections are. So it's not really like saving anybody money in the long run, in my opinion. Anyway. Section 9631. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Oh, wait, yeah. No, we got that. Provide special rules. 9632. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 9641. Families First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. Strikes March 31st, 2021, and replaces it with September 1st, 2021. So just pushing the date back. Or whatever. And it literally does that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, yeah, it's just 8 sections. Just 8 sections. I don't have to count it. It's got it numbered. Yeah, except for section 005, small a of such act. That's amended by striking April 1st, 2021 and inserting October 1st, 2021. No idea what that means. I'd have to dive into the Internal Revenue Code. And if I click on any of the links that they provide in the law, instead of opening a new tab, it starts like loading a new page from this tab. And I'm just like, I'm really not trying to lose my place here. But I have thought, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to look through in the future just so I can take advantage of whatever the hell they got going on in there. 9642. Families First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. Substitutes 12,000 for 10,000. I'm not sure what the heck it means. 9643. Family First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. Affects paid family leave. And it inserts any reason for leave. So it used to be like you needed to have like a reason. But now it's just like by inserting or any reason for leave. So, whatever. Let's see. 9644. Families First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. Now, for this one, we're looking at AII. By inserting or the employee is obtaining immunization related to COVID-19 or recovering from any injury, disability, illness, or condition related to such immunization after medical diagnosis. Right? But disability related to such immunization, that makes me think that these vaccines may not be all that safe. If you possibly get disabled from it, like what the hell? Fuck that. Look at this. Alright, so the next one is B little I double I. By inserting or the employee is obtaining immunization related to, it's the same thing, COVID-19 or recovering from any injury, disability, illness, or condition related to such immunization. C and D, same thing. So basically, just hope, maybe do hope you get disabled from the immunization, because it seems to me that disability will last a lot longer than injury or an illness or condition. So you'll be collecting paid family leave for the rest of your life there. So go get immune, go get your vaccine shot. Just be sure this covers you first, though, 9645 amends the Families First and Coronavirus Response Act is amended. 9646 Families First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. 9647. There's really nothing interesting in here, at least that I can see, because everything is, by applying this section, and it's just all a lot of vague language that you have to literally go in and know the act and have to look at these individual sections. And that's not what I'm doing. That would be going down a rabbit hole. that would effectively never end. Because I go in there, I bet you they'll reference another act. And I go to that act, I'll bet you they reference another act. It's just kind of like, fuck you guys. Because that's possible. It just seems like a rabbit hole that I'm not interested in going down. Where was I? 9647. Family's First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. 9648. Family's First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. 9649. Family's First Coronavirus Response Act is amended. 9650. Literally, it's just talking about the amendment being effective March 31st, 2021, December 31st, 2020. I don't know why they need like a whole section for it. But whatever. 9651. CARES Act is amended. Can't really tell what they're doing. Except pushing dates. Nine six six. Wait, no. 9661. Yeah. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Talking about premium assistance. And they've got this chart here. Where like this is the new chart, I guess. Or this is a temporary chart for 2021 and 2022. Premium percentage, I mean, is 0 for 100 up to 150% of the poverty line, the federal poverty line. Up to really 200% of the federal poverty line, it's 0. But the final premium percentage is 2% for 150% to 200%. Like I don't know what that is. I don't know what premium percentage is in this. I just don't. I really don't. And to be perfectly honest, at this time, I don't care. So I'm assuming, people watch it probably aren't going to fucking care. 9662. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 9663. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 9671. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 969772. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Now this is Internal Revenue Code of 1986 that's being amended here, right? But I just got tired of writing 1986. I guess you could say it's important to know if you're like an accountant for a corporation. Then yeah, shouldn't you be looking this stuff up anyway? Anyway, 9673. Internal Revenue Code is amended. 9700. A whole section for short title. So it's basically nothing. So the American Rescue Plan Act appears to just be like a collection of all these other acts, like a bunch of other acts. So it's like a super act. Butch Lewis Emergency Pension Plan Relief Act of 2021. Man, oh man, oh man. Right, so 9701. Wait, hold on, yeah. 9701. Multi-employer retirement plans. I have no idea. I read through this and I literally wrote in my notes, in parentheses, I have no idea. I'm guessing if somebody is working for like not necessarily multiple employers at the same time, but if like they have this retirement plan and they work for like one employer and that employer is putting into the retirement plan, then they go and they move on to another employer for whatever reason. And then that employer is putting money into their retirement plan, and then so on and so forth. And that's what this has to do with. Other than that, I have no clue. No clue. 9703. No, wait. 9702. The same thing, multi-employer plans. I just don't know. I literally have no clue what this is. Excuse me. Pizza, I got my homemade pizza here. That's some good, solid stuff. Like it. 9703. Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 is amended. I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you in terms of this. Right? I mean, apparently they're just like inserting in other losses related to the virus SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus disease 2019. I mean, are we going to start doing this for just every flu season now? I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. Now, okay, 9704. Employee Retirement Income Security Act is amended, but I got here little I 1 2. Little I 1. An eighth fund shall be established for special financial assistance to multi-employer pension plans and to pay for necessary administrative and operating expenses of the corporation related to such assistance. Now, from what I can tell, this is something of like within the corporation. This isn't like a fund within the treasury that's going to be paying for corporation expenses, but rather that corporations are ordered to establish a fund that will pay for these expenses and administrative costs, not necessarily for the pension plans, but for the costs of administrating and operating expenses, which I guess operating expenses would include the pension plans. No idea. 2. There is appropriated from the general fund such amounts as are necessary for the costs of providing financial assistance. See, now that's what makes me think that's not really within the corporation, but rather this is like, let's see. At first, I thought it was federal government like paying the expenses of these corporations to operate their pension plans. But I really have no idea. Wait, the eighth fund established in the subsection shall be credited with amounts from time to time as the Secretary of the Treasury. See this? See this? I thought the federal government was going to be paying these expenses, these corporate expenses. But then I came across another section which kind of dealt with the same thing, in which it made it seem like the federal government had no like part to play in it. And so I was very confused when I was reading through this the first time, because I was like, what the fuck? Why is the government paying for administrative expenses and operating costs to corporations to operate multi-employer pension plans? I'm just, I don't know, but it seems like some shenanigans are going on in this area. 9705. Oh wait, yeah. Well, I mean, we did 9704. Yeah, 9705. 9704 is this really big one. And it's just got all sorts of crap. Just all sorts of crazy stuff in it that's really just addresses other things. 975 Internal Revenue Code is amended. That's all I got for you guys. 9706 Internal Revenue Code is amended. Now we got a little A1 here. Oh, it's just talking about these tables here. We're just talking about applicable minimum percentage, applicable maximum percentage. In a year in the period starting 2012 and ending in 2019, 90% is the minimum, and 110% is the maximum. After 2029, the minimum is 70%, and the maximum is 130%. Like, what the fuck are they doing? I don't know enough at all to be able to discuss what the heck is going on in this. And it would take a lot more research, and to be perfectly honest, I only started taking notes on the rest of this section, like I guess a few hours. I got done at like 10:15 or something like that. I think I started around like 8 p.m. because I just slept. I slept all day. I didn't do like anything. I didn't do any work on this earlier. All the work I did on this was just a few hours before starting this stream. I'm sorry, but like when you know you're so close to the end of something, you just like, oh, get me there, get me there. And so I tried to look through and find all the interesting tidbits, but all this at the end of this bill just seems to be regarding like the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 and retirement plans. And so they're, nothing to do with COVID really. I mean, except for that immunization phrase. But I mean, like they're going to just, amend that in the future to include any vaccines whatsoever. Any and all vaccines. And it's just going to happen. I'll bet money on that. I can't really put a timeline on it, but they'll certainly try. That's what I'd say. Now, Section 9707. Internal Revenue Code is amended. Newspapers. Now, this is talking about the so it's like the retirement benefits as related to newspapers. And I'm just, like I have no idea. I have no idea what the hell any of this is about. It's certainly not about COVID-19. It's certainly not about the lockdowns that were imposed. It's certainly not about bailing any of the industries they screwed over out. It's certainly not about providing any PPE. It had absolutely nothing to do with what's going on here or why they're passing this bill. And that's why it's at the end of this bill, is they really don't want people to have the energy to even figure out what the hell's going on. As far as I can tell, it's just something that only really applies to a very, very small portion of the population. I really have no idea. All I know is I'm pretty sick of going through this shit. It really does suck. It's just a lot. It's just like, what the fuck does newspaper retirement plans have to do with rescuing America? I don't know. I simply don't know. I guess it's just to help out the people who have been running the media companies that have been operating the Democrat propaganda for the last 4 years. And since before that, honestly, just before that, it wasn't as obvious. Now it's just, in everybody's face. And the people who buy into it are like, read the news, just Google it. And it's just like, bitch, I can find all kinds of bullshit on the internet. Well, cunts. People are like, oh, we're so smart because we fucking swallow propaganda all day. Sure, they don't have any like legitimate sources, just like anonymous sources. Or when they do have a source, we don't look at the source. We don't actually dive into what the source is. We don't actually like, oh, here, they provide a source. Let's go look at the source. No, you don't do that, do you? Or else you'd be like, wait a second, this shit has been spun to a whole nother level. What's going on here? Then you start actually asking questions if you're actually intelligent in that regards. But no, you're not doing that. So, can't take their opinion seriously. Eruzen, I have a question. Who do you think is the bad guy between Israel and Palestine? I'm confused and I'm doing a thing for school. The bad guy? Well, I think the bad guy would be the ones that are paying families if their family members get injured trying to rush a border. Right? Like, I think the bad guys are the ones that oh, you put your child in danger and they got hurt or killed. Good, here's some money. I think the bad guys are the ones that are using women and children as shields. That's what I think the bad guys are in that respect. So you go ahead and figure that one out for yourself. Now, where am I at? Section 9708. Right, we just dealt with newspapers. We're almost at the end of this. We're so close to the end. Internal Revenue Code is amended. No adjustments unless under a collective bargaining agreement. So as you notice from the title of this, it says cost of living adjustment freeze. Right? So this is apparently applying, this kind of freeze is only applying to agreements that are not part of a collective bargaining agreement. And by collective bargaining agreement, they mean unions, right? So any agreement in which there is a cost of living adjustment, there will be a freeze on that cost of living adjustment unless it's a union agreement. So they're kind of just, from this, it seems like they're favoring unions in this, which, basically screw everybody else. We're only helping the unions. Talk about unity, right? 9801. Social Security Act is amended. $3,550,000,000. Right? $3,375,000,000 would be grants to states. $100 million grants to Indian tribes and tribal organizations, and $75 million as for grants to territories. Right? Redistribution. It's just like the first sentence of Clause I and Clause 2 of Paragraph 2D shall apply to respect to the amounts allotted to the territories under this paragraph, except that the second sentence of paragraph shall not apply to the amounts, like to the extent the Secretary determines the territory will be able to use the additional amounts to provide child care assistance in an amount that bears the same ratio to the amount so available for redistribution as the amount allotted to the territory. I mean, is that what this is for? Child care assistance? I guess so. I guess that's what it is, because allotments, you're talking about the Child Care and Development Block Grant Act of 1990. So, yeah. Oh, another interesting thing, and why I have B here, is the suspension of state match requirement. Right? So, all right. So, if such act shall be applied and administered with respect to any state that is entitled to receive entire amount that would be allotted to the state under this of such act for the fiscal year in the absence of this section, as if the federal medical assistance percentage for the state for the fiscal year were 100%. So I think it's suspending the idea that the federal government needs to match the medical assistance percentage for the state, right? So states put up like a certain amount of funds for medical assistance, and there was a rule, and it seems, in place where the federal government kind of matched 100% of those funds. But in this, it seems like the federal government has decided, no, we're not going to match 100% of those funds. Do it on your own. Very interesting that the Democrats would be all for a bill that, did not spend federal money on things like this. Right? You would think they'd want to kind of take over the responsibility from the states, because, they're not necessarily for states' rights, they're for federal central power and control. Right? Well, I don't know what they're doing. I guess what they figure is they can cut off certain states from the funds while ensuring that the states that they want to help get the help that they want to give them. And that's it. That is it. That is the end of the American Rescue Plan. Oh my gosh. Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers on cut.ly. That's a new one. Oh, but parentheses, bigfollows.com. Interesting. Doesn't seem like bigfollows.com. Seems like cut something. Man. And that's that. Look at this. Let's just scroll back through this and just appreciate how much time it took to go through this entire thing. And yeah, we didn't even spend the time like diving into the acts that it references, because a lot of these sections are amendments to previous acts, right? A lot of these sections are like, oh, go look here if you actually want to find out what this does. And we didn't do that, mainly because that would have taken an insane amount of time. It would have probably like hurt my place, like in terms of like clicking on a link. Like one of these links here, if I click on it, it starts loading in this tab instead of opening a new tab, which if it opened a new tab, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But since it wants to take me away from this page, I'm like, fuck you, I'm not about to lose my place. All right, I press back. Who knows where it's going to send me? It's going to send me right to where I was? I don't think so. I think it'll send me right back to the top, because this is a government website, and government websites typically shit. But man, just all this. How much of it actually deals with COVID-19? Well, I've heard numbers like 9% actually has to deal with it. I think more than 9% actually deals with COVID-19, but a lot of it is COVID-19 is kind of added on the end. Right? Want to become famous? Want to become famous? No, I'd rather become rich than famous, to be perfectly honest. A lot of the sections in here is just like, let's just stop here, right? Experienced a reduction in household income, incurred significant costs, or experienced other financial hardship during or due directly or indirectly to the coronavirus pandemic. So it doesn't even have to be due directly or indirectly to the coronavirus pandemic. It could just be happening during, right? Just during it. Just within this time frame. Did something happen? All right, we'll throw you some money. Elect us into office some more so we can throw you more money. And when costs start going up for you, well, you're just going to have to blame yourself, because you're the one who voted for it. We're just doing what the people want. Fuck you. No, you're not. You're helping out elites. So many non-profit organizations in here that I bet just, own, what was it? I saw an interesting Russell Brand video. I think, was it yesterday or was it this morning? I forget. But he's going over how Mark Zuckerberg and his wife have a baby, and they're like, we're going to donate 99% of our wealth to charity. And the media organization is like, oh, what a lucky baby. Oh, what great people donating so much money to charity. Yeah, but the reality is what they're actually doing is they're putting the money from their like personal accounts into a LLC, which they have control over, right? And from that LLC, what they'll do is they'll invest that money back into Facebook stock and stuff like that. And so then they'll start profiting off of their nonprofit organization, right? But they won't be taxed on it because it's a nonprofit organization, right? Because what they do is they take that money, they invest it in another company, right? That company that they invested in pays them because they work for it. It's their company. It's their company that they own, right? So they're collecting the profits from it. And they take those profits and then they donate them back to charity, right back in. And so it's just like a way of just not being taxed at all. And these are the same companies and the same people that will do anything to help the Democrats stay in office, stay in power. They allow all sorts of nasty, disgusting shit going on their sites. But as soon as somebody comes up with like a conspiracy theory concerning what happened during the election, then it's just like, no, there's no such thing. Like, you're off, you're gone. It's just like, we've got to censor these people. Misinformation. It's just misinformation online, right? They don't care about the flat earthers, but they care about the fucking Trump supporters, right? Fuck you, they don't care about misinformation, because if anything, they've been putting out so much misinformation. I know I've had to do the work myself for years, right? When Trump was running out, like a few years after he like been in office, I was still arguing with people on Facebook. They're like, "Here, look at this article. Read this article." And I'll like read through the article, and then I'll be like, "I noticed that article doesn't mention any sources." And they'd be like, "Sources?" It's like, yeah, sources. You know, the thing you kind of need in order to write like a research paper, right? You kind of need like a source material to write like an article or anything like that. You need sources if you're going to act like you're presenting something that's factually correct to anybody. How long this table of contents is. It's just like, well, so what if there aren't sources? What do you mean, so what if there aren't sources? And then there was the time where they were like talking about how Trump called all Mexicans like rapists or something like that during one of his rallies. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty bad. I should go and watch that rally. Spent 2 hours of my life watching this rally. And he started talking about something that seemed similar, like close, like it was getting close to it. And I'm like, oh, here it comes. Like, no. Oh, wait, this is, no. Oh, wait, no. No. This is, no. This is just like, motherfuckers. I'm not the kind of person who watches rallies. But because people are like, oh, he did this during this, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to go check that out. See if he actually did. I don't want to vote for somebody who said that. And then, lo and behold, doesn't say it. Bunch of idiots out there, bunch of ignoramus, dumbass cunts who got degree and bullshittery. Sitting there just, oh, this is fact. This is fact. Like, how can you not believe this? It's just like, you're so ignorant. Go look it up on Google. And it's like, why don't I go to the source? Huh? Why don't I go to the source? The fuck is this? Pass agreed to in Senate. Pass Senate with an amendment 50 to 49. Who didn't vote? It's not going to tell me who wasn't present, is it? Oh, here we go. Sullivan, Republican. That's Alaska, right? Or is that Arkansas? I think that's Alaska. Dan Sullivan. Serving with Lisa Murkowski. Is he sick? Is he dying? Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers. Yeah, okay. Oh, thank you for the follow, Office Nike. Well, how's it going? Yeah, we're just looking at the roll call here. I bought a Russian bot once. He never gave me a like. Hashtag forgive me alone. Or forever alone. For a second I read forgive me forever. That's what I saw. Great. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. I'm just got done looking at the American Rescue Plan. And, it was interesting because I was like, okay, I knew this had been like passed in the House, right? 219 to 212, like that had been the case. That was 227, right? I was like, it's got to go to the Senate, right? And I had doubts about it being able to pass the Senate, but it passed the Senate with 50 to 49. Now, granted, if it was 50-50, Kamala Harris would vote and she'd, get it passed, right? But I went ahead and clicked on the roll call, and very nice of them to let me know who it was that wasn't voting, and that's Dan Sullivan of Alaska. It's this guy right here. Cool. Yeah, this is like what, part 4 or 5, the absent one you've been hearing about. Well, yeah, this is the big bill. Went through it. These are just my notes from it. I'll tell you, I've laughed at a lot of things, but like this bill has just been, it's been funny, while at the same time it's just been so frustrating and aggravating just to read through all the times that they talk about, like, this is for COVID-19, preventing COVID-19, but it's also for paying like full tuition for these colleges, right? Tuition costs for these kids to go to school. It's kind of like, what does that have to do with this? It's just like, oh, nothing really. It's just continuing what we want to do. Just using COVID-19 as an excuse to pour money into the system that we've created with our friends in place and all these nonprofits that aren't really nonprofits. I mean, they are on paper, but like, I've learned a lot. There was one absent Republican. Thought it might be him. It was him. I mean, I didn't have an idea of who it was. I was curious though, because it's like, who is it? Dan Sullivan. It's this guy. I mean, I think he's sick. Honestly, I don't know why he wouldn't be there for it. I mean, anyway, even if he was there for it, just, Kamala Harris would just break the tie. They'd go to the president anyway. I kind of believe Dan is a Findom guy. Findom? Looking for an emblematic tweet. I had it somewhere. Emblematic tweet from Dan Sullivan. I think he was sick. I think I heard something about him being like sick or having COVID-19 or somebody in his family or something like that. Some of those girls are letting people pay for their college. Hey, I don't mind girls, getting somebody to pay for their college, right? Like everyone's got to do what they can do, right? Well, what I'm talking about is they say the money is for COVID-19 to prevent it and stuff like that. But it's also to pay full tuition costs for these students to attend these colleges. It's just like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it's got a double purpose all over the place. Hello. What's up, Sean Way? It was about the stimulus, how when Trump was in office, all Republicans were on board with 1.9 billion stimulus. Well, I guess 1.9 billion stimulus. I don't know if that necessarily was the case, but it's all about kind of what the money's actually doing. In my opinion, like 1.9 billion stimulus is not like that great of a thing. right? And I feel like you just let people open up back again and let people work and all that stuff, and everything will be fine. Let the individuals kind of determine it. But like, if you were doing 1.9 billion, it'd be like, where's it going? What's its purpose? In this, with the Democrats passing it, the Democrats writing it rather, they've got all kinds of stuff in here. They got their federal minimum wage included in this. So Biden's about to sign the $15 an hour federal minimum wage thing, but it's going to be like an incremental thing, right? So like every year, it's going to start at like $10 minimum wage. It technically did pass, yeah, because it's in the American Rescue Plan Act, right? That Mnuchin didn't like it. Well, Mnuchin's just the guy on the board of the Federal Reserve, right? Wasn't this recent stimulus like $1 trillion? People are saying it's 1.9 trillion, and yeah, I mean, like from the numbers, right? We're talking sections where it's like a lot of sections where it's like 4 billion, and then there's sections where it's just like 100 million is a small amount, right? Like 500 million, 1 billion, 800 million, 100 million, 15 million, 5 million, 19 million, 850 million, 99 million, 10 million, 150 million, 180 million, 18 million, 14 billion, 990 million for one section, 4 billion. And so there's just like hundreds of sections where it's just like billions of dollars, millions and millions and millions of dollars. Stimulus is an omnibus bill, so it'll have things tangibly related to it. It's like 700 pages. You can go through it all. Well, I went through it all. That's what I've got all these streams that I've done. This is like part 4 or 5, I forget. But it's long overdue. Depends, right? Findom is apparently someone who pays girls for exchange of their feet or satisfaction. Some people like to be called losers. I haven't heard of Findom before. That's interesting. 15 did pass. Lasai, they can't get fucking on the board an issue. They can't get on board an issue. They can't get fucking on board on an issue. Yeah, I mean, so the way the 15 minimum wage thing is working out is they're doing it incrementally, right? So over the course of like 4 or 5 years, the federal minimum wage is going to go up $1 like each year, right? It's going to start at like 10. However, there are exceptions within the federal minimum wage where it's like for certain age groups, right? I think if it's below the age of 22, then I think the federal minimum wage is different. The language is weird in the federal minimum wage part. Let me see if I can find that section real quick. Oh, yeah. I mean, but literally they've got 300 million in one section to monitor animals for SARS-CoV-2 because of the Chinese claim that it spread to animals and stuff like that. It's just like, okay. Who's eligible? They did that with stimulus checks. Oh, okay. Yeah. They definitely did narrow the pool. It's below 75,000, right? So if your income for 2019, I think, was below 75,000 a year, then you can get a stimulus check, and anyone can get a check, right? You don't even have to be a citizen of the United States to get a damn check. It's a $1,400 rebate. It's just like that's an estimate before the pandemic. Like they really stuck it to me. No, stuck it to everybody, I'd say. But going through this whole thing, I started it being like, oh, this would be like important and stuff, and it was. I found some very interesting things. So these 75K people won't get the full check. Well, it's yeah, no, the 75K, like, so people who've made 75K and less, right, in 2019, right, they'll get 1,400, right? That's what it is. It's a $1,400 check. Like, 1,400 plus 600 is, sure, there's like 3 month difference, but it equals 2,000. It's just like that doesn't really, that's not necessarily true, right? Because you promise somebody like $1,000, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'll get $1,000 at once. I'll be able to do more with $1,000 at once than I will be able to do with $100 once a month for 10 months, right? Because you'll be able to actually take some of that money and like purchase something that you need in order to make more money with, or invest it in order to make more money with. Whereas if you're just getting $100 a month, you're going to be thinking more narrowly, right? You're going to be like, I can't spend this really on anything. I need this for food, right? I need this to pay my bills. I need this for gas and stuff like that, right? Instead of getting like a solid amount all at once, where you can then really like take it and buy something in order to improve your ability to make more money, right? In order to make more money with. And yeah, so we're just, right, like section 202, 39 billion, right? Like I haven't done the math. I have not run the numbers yet, but 1.9 trillion sounds about right. Yeah, they'll get the full check, right? The rebate section is, it was the last section on the last stream, right? So it's section 9601, right, where it's $1,400 payments to individuals. The Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended. It has an end date of December 31st, 2021. So after December 31st, 2021, you can't like apply for this check anymore. They've only allotted 1,464,500,000 for the payments, 7 million for expenses to carry out the payments, and 8 million to the Inspector General to provide oversight. That's just one check, right? Yeah, it's just one check. That's all it is. However, they've poured billions into other sections, right? So if you want government assistance with paying your home utility bills, right, your electric bills, your gas bills, your water bills, you can get that. They've made food stamps like more valuable, it seems, right? So if you want food assistance, food stamps, right? Sad. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But at least they're gonna have infrastructure jobs in here, because that's another big thing, is that they've put like a ton of money into public transportation projects, right? They've put a bunch of money into just Social Security Act, right, to mitigate COVID-19. They've amended just a lot of old bills, right? They've provided more benefits for, well, I say more benefits. They provided money for benefits for vets, right? But they've kind of made it where it's kind of screwy, where like a vet can get money, or rather can get like money to go to an educational institution so that they can get like a degree, right? But if the vet doesn't like complete the educational program and get the degree, then they can't ever apply for it ever again. I bet those won't get finished. Usually that's how it goes. Yeah, they'll certainly take their time with it, right? Like it's one of those things where eventually it will get finished, but it's going to be drawn out as long as possible in order for the people involved that are getting money for it to get as much money for it as possible, right? Like it will eventually get done, right? Yeah, they super laggy, but that's like one of the tricks, right? That's just one of the tricks. You're like, oh, this is a problem. Okay, we'll pay. You pay me to fix this problem, right? Of course, the more time it takes me to fix this problem, the more money I'll get to fix the problem. Instead of like if I fixed it in like a few days, then I wouldn't get as much money, right? I'd be efficient and effective, cost effective. And when you've got the federal government of the United States of America paying you, you don't have to be as cost effective as possible. You can be incredibly uncost effective, especially if you've got like inside like connections that make sure that you continue to keep the contract, even if you do a really shitty job. Then yeah, you're gonna milk it. You're gonna milk it. Usually, there's an underestimate on how much you need, and other delays. Oh yeah, but it's not really, that's not a real underestimate, right? They probably estimate like a correct number, right? Or they really like overestimate the correct number, right? But what happens is a lot of that money goes into things that aren't necessarily going to make the job done, Like when contractors find out that it's the government paying for it, it's everybody's like, oh, I'm about to get mine, right? This project's going to put my kids through college, something like that, right? Yeah, delays, equipment malfunctions, like just the littlest stuff. And I mean, it doesn't help that like you got unions involved where like they really take a job that could be cost effective and make it as uncost effective as possible. Once again, they're just trying to milk it. Right, they're just trying to milk it. And I mean, I'm not entirely against unions. I understand the cases where like bosses are treating their employees like shit and you kind of need that collective bargaining arrangement. However, when it gets to the point where they're just trying to milk the boss, when they get abusive toward the other way, right? When the employees are being abusive to the employer, right? Then there needs to be something kind of in place for that, right? Like I understand the abuse that can happen from the employer down on the employee, and I understand the abuse that's happening from the employees onto the employer. But it doesn't seem like there's anything in place for the employer necessarily when the abuse is being committed against them, right? Oh man. But yeah, as we can see from the actions here, it is being presented to the president. Or I guess they say yesterday it was presented to the president. I believe his press secretary, Psaki, excuse me, I believe she said he'll sign it Friday. And they're over there celebrating, which I guess why not, right? When you know you're about to get a fat check in the mail, and all your friends are about to get fat checks, and all your family members are about to get fat checks because they're hooked up to the government, then yeah, you're going to be pretty happy, right? You can be pretty happy. Whereas like the people aren't getting fat checks. That they're not getting in on any of this. And so they're not as happy. Right? Not to mention this is, something that's happening here in March. Right? Like they went ahead and spent a lot of time on the impeachment. It's just like, well, I just hope people remember this kind of behavior in the future. I just would like people to, next time they read like an article, like look at the sources that are being presented in the article and check the sources, right? Like you got to be able to keep the press, you got to be able to check the press, right? Like not every outfit that's putting out articles is putting out the truth, right? I mean, everybody's got a bias. You got to understand where the bias is coming from and to what degree the bias affects the reporting. And I mean, I've seen just things spun out of control, and I just got so tired of it because I was arguing with people who didn't put any effort, didn't put anywhere near the amount of effort that I put in checking the articles that they were sharing and stuff like that. And so, why should I waste my time arguing with people that are ignorant? If I'm willing to put in this energy, try to help them out, try to help them understand that like what they're sharing with me is just BS, and they're just like won't accept it, it's like fine. Right? One day you'll find out. If not, you'll die blissful in your ignorance, I guess. I don't know. Or you'll live your life in fear or something like that. Like okay, whatever. I'm just annoyed. I'm just aggravated to a whole new level. And that's, after reading through this, it's nice to see some of the tricks. Right? There's a lot of sections where they provide money for oversight expenses to the Inspector General. In one section, they'll appropriate like $300 billion for something, and they'll give the Inspector General like $5 million to do oversight. And then in the next section, they'll appropriate like $2 billion to purchase advanced tech equipment for qualified like nursing homes, and they'll only like appropriate like $3 million for the Inspector General. Right, so instead of like $5 million to conduct oversight on like $300 billion, it's $3 million to conduct oversight over $2 billion. Right, so that's a nice little subliminal way for them to tell the Inspector General what he should be spending his time doing. Right, shouldn't necessarily be spending his time conducting the oversight on the $2 billion, as he should probably spend most of his time conducting oversight over the 300 billion. No, the 300 million instead of the 2 billion, right? And so that's just, they have all these little tricks in here, and I'm just like, okay. I think the most alarming section in here, well, besides just all the money, like all the money that was going to things that have nothing to do with COVID, the most alarming section was the one where providing funds to private schools. If those funds are used to purchase materials, equipment, or property, then the ownership of that material, equipment, and property will be in a public agency, i.e. the government, right? So the government will own whatever property these schools purchase in order to help their students catch up on the learning that the government told them they couldn't conduct during this pandemic. So, nice little entrapment provision there. Yeah. But, the swamp is back. And it's braver than ever. Anyway, we'll see how this all goes. I've been Rick, you always, and this has been the American Rescue Plan. Thank you for following. Thank you for watching. And I hope you have a good night.